I've always been fascinated about knowledge as
Mm.
a person, and that's why I kind of like read many things. I like to be in touch with and generally wanting to grow. I want to leave the systems that I meet better. And
Mm.
primary thing when we started Vitract was we tried to understudy the current healthcare system, and we realized that
Mm.
the current healthcare system is more of a disease management, is actually more
Mm.
of a disease management system where the attention that the healthcare system pays is to the disease itself, not to the
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
And if you must heal people, you must heal the person.
Mm.
And so, if you look at all the different tools that we have in the current healthcare
Yeah.
system, there are tools that are always trying to distinguish this disease from the other and all that. But when you think about disease, like we started thinking about disease in the context of the root cause of the disease.
Mm.
So it doesn't really matter if someone has ulcerative colitis or depression or diabetes or insulin resistance. If you think about human biology as an integrated system that is very interconnected, you realize that there's a common thread underlying almost every chronic disease.
Mm. So, what does it really look like to build a multi-million dollar company? Not just with intelligence, not just with hustle, but with faith, discipline, and values intact. Okay. So, today's conversation is one I've really been looking forward to. My guest today is a PhD holder, an immigrant, a Christian, and a father, and the co-founder of a company that has scaled into the multi-million dollar space. Whew. But this is not just a success story. It's about systems, mindsets, and an obedience story. I think I had a front row seat to this journey. So I'm honored to be joined by Dr. Chidozie Ojobor, co-founder and chief scientific officer of Vitract. Welcome, Ojobor. Dozie, please, you're welcome to our podcast.
Mhm.
It's
Thank you.
such a pleasure to have you here. And before we dive deep, for anyone meeting you for the first time, how do you usually introduce yourself beyond the titles?
I think that's a very good question. And first off, thank you for having me, and absolutely a big fan of you and what you do. And just being part of your journey and seeing the metamorphosis and
Oh, God.
everything. It's brilliant. It's remarkable. So thank you for having me here. How do I think about myself? It's a really good question. Well, I think about myself as um, someone who's really in pursuit of just, wanting to know more, wanting to learn more
Mm,
about people, and generally wanting to grow. I want to leave the systems that I meet better and
mm,
leave an indelible mark when I can. Well, I'm a father. I have two boys, 4 and 2. They keep me on my toes. Uh, I'm a friend, so try to be there for people
right.
who are in my close circle, and I also
Mm,
try to lean on them when I have to.
mm,
Uh, I'm a son, a brother, and
right.
all of those things. Yeah. So beyond the work that I do, this is really who
Who
I
you
am.
are
Exactly. Yeah.
at the core. This is so I love how from what you've described, it's not the titles that define us. It's actually relationships because you said you're a
Mhm.
father, you're a son, you're a friend, so beyond all the titles, who at the core, I think we are who we are to people, so to say. So I'm
Absolutely.
going to go on to say that you wear so many hats: academic, entrepreneur, husband, father, an immigrant, and a Christian. So let's go back to the beginning just for a second. What was your early relationship with education and ambition like? So did you see yourself pursuing a PhD, or did that evolve over time?
Well, I think you know the story, but yeah.
For the sake.
Conversation. Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I think right from time, I've always been very fascinated about knowledge.
Hmm.
Mm. Because it's primarily the antidotes to ignorance. Yeah, and I think the very remarkable thing about knowledge in itself is that the more you learn, the more you realize what you do not know.
Not know
Um,
anything.
you know? And I think that in itself is very, very humbling. You
Very
know,
humbling.
if you're someone who seeks growth,
Hmm.
you see for yourself how you evolve, your metamorphosis, and I think it's humbling to the point where you'll also learn to extend grace to people who do not know in that moment because
Hmm.
every time you see people who do not know, they remind
Yeah.
you of your old self
Of
and
your
even
old
your
self.
current and continuing self because there's always something that you do not know.
You
So
don't know.
I've always been fascinated about knowledge
Hmm.
as a person, and that's why I kind of like read many things. I like to be in touch with different topics and things like that.
Oh. What are
Um,
the examples of topics you read? I know about apart from gut health. For those who don't know,
yeah,
Vitract is about microbiome, gut health. We're going to talk about that
mm,
later. But apart from that, what else? What else do you read? Let's speak into your brain for a
yeah,
minute.
yeah. Well, I read many things. So the things I read are things that they're mostly determined by the phase of my life. So
Mm.
right now, I have been reading a lot about the origin of life.
Huh.
Um, I've been reading a lot about that. Well, and I must admit that this was, I did have a lot of debate in grad school about this.
Mm.
I'm a molecular biologist, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
when you are a molecular biologist, you're confronted with at the core of what you're doing. You're confronted
Yeah,
with this topic,
yeah,
the origin of life.
yeah.
When you're a biologist and a Christian at the same
Oh my
time, it looks
goodness.
like
Oh my
you're sitting at a very, very you're sitting at a very, very awkward and interesting intersection,
intersection.
right?
Absolutely.
Where as a biologist, the core principle of the origin of life
Yeah,
is Darwinism.
yeah.
It's,
Evolution.
a evolution is Darwinism, which is that we all come from a common ancestral
Yeah,
descent. But then as a Christian,
yeah,
our philosophy is built on creationism,
yeah,
where God created back to Genesis. God
yeah,
created this on the
yeah,
first day
yeah,
and on the second day.
yeah.
But so, how do you reconcile that? So, I'd always been very fascinated about that. Just going into grad school,
Mm, mm.
and I think it led me to a lot of rabbit hole where I then realized that if I was make argument for
Yeah,
something that somewhat looks like creationism
yeah,
in the scientific space,
yeah.
I have to use science to prove that.
Mm,
So I have been reading a lot. I always have been reading a lot on that. But in this phase of my life, I
yeah,
think I'm just always in scientific circles again that is taking me back to that space where I'm just reading
yeah,
a lot about
yeah.
origin of life. So that interests me. I'm reading two books on that right now.
Okay.
One of them is Darwin's Black Box by Michael Behe.
Okay, I'm
An
writing.
excellent an excellent guy. He's a professor of biochemistry.
Mm,
He was pretty much just trying to unravel. He creates biochemical arguments why Darwinism in itself does not, especially, um, it's not Darwinism itself is greeted with a lot of challenges in the context of origin of life.
mm.
um, Darwinism does not particularly explain how one life evolves, quote unquote, to another life,
Yeah.
even though we can prove that we can evolve one future to the next. So
Mm.
I'm reading that, and I'm reading another one which is really interesting
Okay.
by Stephen Meyer, which is the signature of the cell.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
the signature of the cell is a really good one. That one takes a molecular biology approach, while the first one takes a biochemistry approach.
Biochemistry.
So
Oh.
those are the things I'm reading now. I'm also very fascinated about superintelligence now. Um,
Because that's where we are going to from AI. Everyone is
that's
looking
what
at
I'm
AI,
saying.
but we're going to super
Yeah,
intelligence. Okay, I think
yeah,
I've read Nexus, I've read Brief History of, I've read some AI books last year. So
yeah,
I would like to
yeah,
know which super intelligence books are you reading?
yeah. I'm reading The Singularity is Nearer now by Ray Kurzweil.
The singularity is nearer.
Yeah, by Ray Kurzweil.
Mm,
A fascinating book. Well, I've been reading from Ray Kurzweil for a while now, and he's
mm.
fascinating in the sense that I consider him to be the prophet of the century. Because there's really nothing about what we're seeing today that he didn't talk about in the 80s and the 90s, including
Wow.
artificial intelligence.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm reading that book.
So
I'm going to read it.
that's someone you want to read from. He has a series of books.
Hey.
There is the singularities near, there is the singularities nearer. I'm reading the
Wow.
singularities nearer now. And
Wow.
he talks about a fascinating concept where, human intelligence will eventually, artificial intelligence or machine intelligence will eventually surpass human intelligence by
Wow.
2045.
Wow.
Um, but I think the more interesting thing about the conversation is how human intelligence and artificial intelligence would eventually merge,
Wow.
um, where humans will be able to tap into artificial intelligence through things like brain implants, or nanoscale technologies. Just
Wow.
imagine a situation where, I mean, if you wanted to ask or gain insight into any subject today, you would
Hmm.
go on Google and type and ask
Yeah.
questions or ChatGPT or
Mm-hmm.
something.
Mm-hmm.
But imagine a situation where rather than do that, we can have just a brain implant or a chip in our heads. And imagine where if you're thinking about something, it can translate into a context or a prompt on the
Wow.
chip. And so it means that the future is not nothing we're thinking of right now. It's going to be remarkably far from what we have right now. So
Wow.
that's emergence, that's merging of human intelligence and artificial
And
intelligence.
then
I think it's something very interesting. So
I
yeah.
think we're also even close to this. Isn't Elon doing something about this experiment where he's putting it on, is it chimp or monkey? I think he's already, yeah,
Yeah,
Elon.
yeah.
Elon.
There are definitely like some works done in non-human primates
Human brain, yeah.
in this context. But I think that it's just the future is just really, because if we get to that point
Wow.
where I don't have to go on Google
On
to learn
Google.
something,
Wow.
then I could also make the case that we don't necessarily need to have universities, because why would I want to go to university? So it means
Wow.
that in 30, 40 years, it might not be a noble path to want to be a professor because you're not going to have a job. All right.
Wow. Oh my
All right.
God.
Yeah, right. When you think about it, it
But
changes the possibility of work.
it changes the possibility of work. But can we also argue that going to school is not just for learning though? Like, can we argue that there's a place for character formation?
Oh yeah, but there are many places for character formation in the family, in church, in social
Wow.
circles, right? Um,
Oh.
because I think that's how we are as human beings. We always try to create circles that would
Hmm.
meet the primary needs that we have. And
Yeah.
so if character formation is one of them, which of course is, especially if
Hmm.
you grow up
Character
in
and learning. Yeah.
ethical and moral societies,
Yeah.
character formation, then we can create smaller circles where those things can happen and not necessarily school.
Oh my goodness. So AI AI is here, but we're super intelligence is even okay. So in a world of super intelligence, I'm just wondering how does it I can just be born, have the chip, and I'm a doctor because I know what a doctor knows, right? Is that what it means?
I mean, that's the possibility. Like those are the potential possibilities. But I also
Oh,
think that we'll then start to grapple with new realities then. One of them being access, for example. So the fact that you can have a brain implant or a chip doesn't necessarily mean that you will have it. Like then it becomes. I
oh,
believe that it would eventually become commoditized, and
my
it's a scary
goodness.
future in itself, because then if it becomes something that you have to purchase with high
Wow.
capital or income,
Yeah.
then it means that knowledge in itself will be stratified to dots,
Yeah.
right? So
We still need
it is
those
a very
professors
scary
then
future.
because people will need to buy cheaper education. We still need professors.
Well, that's a good argument, actually.
Professors, don't worry, your jobs are there waiting for you. Let's deviate a bit. Let's go into a little bit of immigration. So, being an immigrant adds an entirely different layer to success. So, you are navigating new systems, cultures, expectations, often without social capital. I mean, I don't think I'm even out of this box yet. Like, I mean, we were discussing before we started the podcast. It can be lonely as an immigrant, especially when you don't have
Mm,
support system. So, what were some of the hardest moments in your immigrant journey that people
mm,
don't usually see or talk about today?
mm, mm. That's a good question. Well, I moved to Canada over 10 years ago, just about the same time. We all left Nigeria about the
Yeah,
same
we all
time.
at the
And
same
it
time.
feels like yesterday,
Yeah.
but over 10 years ago. I would say that the challenges also change with time.
Hmm.
Obviously,
Hmm.
when I just came in, that was the first time I realized I was black. That wasn't, it was never a thing, right? It was never a thing. I sounded different. I obviously still sound different now.
Mm,
But I think for me, because we went straight into grad school. So
mm.
for me, I also went into a program, the Faculty of Medicine at the University of Toronto,
Wow.
where I was the only black guy in the whole
Wow.
of the program.
Wow.
So it was a program that had about 400 students from first year to sixth year
Wow.
PhD, but I was the only black guy. We had two other black girls. And so automatically, somehow I became at least high buddies with them. I would say hi to them. One of them actually became my real good friend.
Mm.
But I think that was the first thing, just being in an environment where you do not particularly look like,
Like,
the other guys. That puts
mm.
some level of pressure on you.
Hmm.
Because then that's pressure to conform, right?
Mm.
And there's also that pressure to prove yourself.
Yeah.
So my first year especially, and my first 3 months of experiments weren't particularly the greatest. So they were
Please
very
don't
going
give me
south.
PTSD right now. Like I'm just you're
you
sending
know,
me back to New Zealand.
they're going they're going south, it's like, after 3 to 6 months, they became better. I mean, the whole of your PhD will become, you'll fail more than you would succeed. But at least
Definitely.
you get used to failure and you learn to conduct
Well,
yourself
yes,
and deal with it.
yes, yes.
So yeah, I think that was the very first phase. The obvious other one, the other obvious ones were just not being around family. You know,
Oh.
I think we do not pay attention to the essence of family when we have them until we
Mm.
leave.
Yeah.
Support system. We
Mm.
think about support system as a concept until we're in situations where we
Where we
actually practically need support
yeah,
system.
system.
You know, Thankfully, my sister also had moved to Canada at the time, but she lived, 2-3 hours by
Mm.
flight away. But at least I could communicate with someone
Yeah.
and talk. But my everyday, I was a lab rat, as you
Mm.
definitely were too, from
Mm.
lab to the house, and then the next day you go back to the experiment and all that. And
Oh God, have
yeah, I
mercy.
think I think those parts were kind of like hard, but it
Hmm.
became better when I got
Yeah.
married. Sincerely, I think maybe if I didn't do a PhD, maybe I wouldn't have gotten married even as soon as I did, because when you're doing a PhD, you're like, you know what, I just need to get this out. So I had to go back and get married, and then it was, yeah,
Oh.
yeah,
Oh. Okay. Okay. So, was there any point where you felt when you think about your dreams, was there any point where you felt my dreams are actually too much? Maybe I need to scale back. Maybe I need to shrink. Was there any point you felt, am I crazy? Am I dreaming too much?
oh yeah, there's still points, I think, even to date. I think I think it's the I think it's the thorn in the flesh of anyone who is ambitious. You know, that's a thorn that will be in your flesh. And I think it's important that it's there so it continually buffets you, because
Mm.
you have to strike a balance between, being extremely ambitious and
Mm.
then you paying attention to your own body, listening to
Yeah.
your body.
Mm.
Mm. Because a lot of times that is what we give away in the pursuit of everything.
Yeah.
As I'm speaking, I'm just thinking about what my own life and my journey has
Yeah.
been. It's
Yeah.
great to be ambitious, but if you're not careful, your health you could
Mm.
sacrifice your health for that, and
Yeah.
that's meaningless if you think about it. So
Very meaningless.
yeah, there are points where I think about that, but I particularly think about that mostly in the context of my health. I
Mm.
think for me, because I mean, now I have kids and,
Yeah.
I just have other people to live for, but essentially for myself as well.
Yeah.
I have to be healthy to be able to push the boundaries
Yeah.
that my mind can conceive.
Yeah.
And if you don't pause and tell yourself that, a lot of times, you would have gone all the way in, you might have lost
Mm.
a part of your health before you realize. And that's why I think it's good to have good friends and good
Mm.
partners who can also hold you back
Hold you back
sometimes
and
and
say it's too
remind
much.
you, it's too much, and take a step back. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So much. So let's go into from PhD thinking to business building. Okay. So okay. So many people we assume that academic excellence and business success are separate worlds, so to say. But in your journey, they clearly intersect. And I must say this off script, like without even looking anywhere. I think when I look at you, Dozie, like I am so inspired that when we were busy thinking about, let's say, getting a job, you were already thinking differently. Like you never even applied for any job. Sometimes I'm like, what was in this guy's mind? Like where I am 7 years after my PhD, you were there 7 years ago. So it always baffles me that how is it that when people were thinking about getting a job, you did like something crazy, something that was not, how do I put it? Something that, so I was like when people were thinking of other things, how I'm always baffled. What pushed your mind? This is off script. Like what took you from PhD thinking straight into entrepreneurship? Like what was it? I've never asked this before. I would love
Yeah,
to.
yeah. I think to be fair, I think when I was starting my PhD, I was
Yeah,
still within that. I was still thinking, finish, get a job,
yeah.
and I was still thinking the canonical way. But I think that it was in 2018 that
Mm.
I had my own road to Damascus experience. That's what I call it usually. It was in 2018. I think it was just I just realized my why, you
Wow.
know. At
Wow.
a point you have to be introspective to really figure
Mm.
out what your journey, what your purpose is, you know.
Mm.
And that happened after an experiment that I've been doing for a long time. I
Wow.
was really hoping it worked, and it finally worked.
Wow.
And I was trying to clone something. I was trying
Mm.
to test it in a bacterial system, and it
Yeah.
worked.
Mm.
And then I thought in my head that when it worked, that I'll feel like I'll have the greatest feeling ever. But that feeling it was so short-lived that I was like, okay, so what next? Well,
What
what
next?
next? We'll do more experiment.
Mm.
I think it was in that moment that I realized that what I wanted was beyond the boundaries of the lab. You
Mm.
know, I knew that, essentially I wanted to create value. I wanted to build something that would go from the lab to the bedside. Started to think about myself more as a translational scientist,
Mm.
someone who wanted to do more than works that will be published in scientific journals, but actually something that will provide value to someone on the bedside. So for
Wow.
me, that was the first why. And then in my journey as with people, I also realized that I wanted to create opportunities for people.
Mm.
It was beyond just creating opportunities for myself. Because somehow I felt like, somehow opportunities will open up for me if I kept
Mm.
knocking on doors.
Yeah.
But I wanted to also be a source of that, create
Yeah.
opportunities for people.
Yeah.
And then I also wanted to create wealth, you know. I'm very big on wealth creation.
Yes. So.
I wanted to create wealth because it's just my journey, where I'm coming from and everything. And the people also surrounding me, and where people who I also see who are probably coming from where I'm coming from as well.
Yes.
Uh, and then lastly, it's just freedom. I wanted to create freedom for
Freedom.
myself.
Freedom.
So when I had these four reasons: one, I wanted to create value; two, I wanted to create opportunities; three, I wanted to create wealth; and four, I wanted to create freedom.
Yeah.
I realized that the only thing that could actually allow me to do this was to start a company. And
Start a
that
company.
was when
Can I just ask what steps? So anyone watching now, maybe doing a PhD, doing a master's, or doing a bachelor's in science, because we're talking about degrees now to disruption. What can they do? What maybe one or two things? What can they do while they are still studying or after studying that can move them? How should they think? What should they do that can move them to that disruption level?
it's simple. They should just be obsessed with problems.
Problems.
Yeah. They should just be
Problems
obsessed
are
with
good.
problems. Yeah. They should be obsessed with it. They should look around them. They should look in their immediate environment. Wherever they go, they should be very, very observant and
Observant.
find problems.
Problems.
If you're obsessed with problems, and then certain things will start welling up in you to solve them.
Wow.
And solutions are not necessarily new. They don't
Mm.
necessarily have to be what any person has never done before.
Mm.
You have to think about solutions in the context of how can I do things better? How can I
Mm.
do things faster? How can I do things cheaper?
So it's not necessarily that someone has not done it, but how can you do it better, faster, cheaper? Wow.
Exactly.
Wow. 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 So
And
efficiency, sort of.
efficiency, essentially. Yeah. It's about solving problems. And I say that because I think a lot of people go into entrepreneurship for the wrong reason.
Mm,
You know, entrepreneurship is probably the hardest thing you're going to do. Right? It's really, really hard. I thought the PhD was going to be harder. I did the hardest thing I did, but
no,
entrepreneurship is actually harder
it
than
is.
than doing a PhD. And so it's not a shortcut to making
Mm-mm,
wealth.
mm-mm, 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 mm-mm.
So if you're not someone who is really obsessed with solving problems,
Problem.
then you're not going to have sufficient fuel and perseverance to live it through because it's a very lonely journey. For example, I've been building the company for 4 years, with my co-founder and our team, and it's lonely. It's like whatever decision you conceive is, whether it's a product decision, whether it's a management decision, whether it's an
Yeah.
investment decision, like whatever it is that you conceive is what is going to happen. And when things are not going well, it's on you. If people are not, you know, I think the harder part is even when you start to grow, when you realize that people are able to pay their mortgages because of you, people are
Wow.
able to send their kids to school because of you, people are able to do, so it puts a lot of pressure on you and you have to
Pressure.
show up every day,
Show up
you know?
every day.
So it
Wow. You
comes with
said
its
four
own,
years. It feels more than 4 years for me for
I
Vitract.
know.
Is it 2021 or
It's
20?
2020. It's 2022. We started 2022 April. So we're gonna be 4 years in 2 months actually.
Oh, I felt it was longer than that. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Okay. Oh, wow. So
Wow.
let's talk about Vitract. So what problem did you set out to solve and why was it important to you personally?
Oh, good question. Well, um, so for me, I think the primary thing when we started Vitract was we tried to understudy the current healthcare system, and we
Mm,
realized that the current healthcare system was more of a disease management, is
mm,
actually more of a disease management system where the attention that the healthcare system pays is to the disease itself, not to the
yeah,
person.
yeah.
And if you must heal people, you must heal the person.
Mm,
And so, if you look at all the different tools that we have in the current healthcare
yeah.
system, there are tools that are always trying to distinguish this disease from the other and all that. But when you think about disease, like we started thinking about disease in the context of the root cause of the disease.
Mm,
So it doesn't really matter if someone has ulcerative colitis or depression or diabetes or insulin resistance. If you think about human biology as an integrated system that is very interconnected, you realize that there's a common thread underlying almost every chronic disease.
mm,
And so that was what we wanted to get to. If we're able to build tools that can actually shine light on
wow.
the signatures that are common threads to all these chronic
All of
diseases,
them.
maybe this will give clinicians insight into how to start rethinking about diseases. And
Mm,
so we started to ask the question, where does this lie? And it turns out that it lies in the gut. All right. And that's
wow.
why, Hippocrates would say all diseases stem from the gut, right?
Wow.
So it lies in the gut and says, okay, if it lies in the gut, well, what are the different things about the gut that actually point
Wow.
to this? And so we built tools that allows us shine light on the gut to identify the bugs that tend to be enriched in disease conditions versus
Wow.
when you're healthy. And then we show clinicians that, and based upon that, we also tell them, hey, this is what you need to do to improve the gut
Wow.
health. And then you start to see that certain people who have depression, for example, something as that looks not connected to the gut at all, like
Wow.
depression, anxiety, you see that for some people, they just need to heal their gut. And then from there,
Wow.
start to see improvement. So that's what we do. We build tools that shine light on the gut and give clinicians insight into how to improve gut health and overall health, pretty much.
Amazing. So I just wanted to ask a question about funding, just to change topic a bit. If someone watching wants to understand funding landscape in startups, so can you just give us like a 2 minute quick course
Yeah.
on funding routes? So I hear of bootstrapping, I hear of pre-seed, seed, Series A, crowdfunding, angel investing, venture capital. Yeah, just a quick 2 minutes
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah, I mean, so funding, yeah, is largely separated into two. It's either you're
Mm,
bootstrapped or you're funded by external investors.
okay.
So bootstrap pretty much just means you're using your own money and your
Mm,
resources to run your business. All right. There's a place for that, and that's completely fine. And sincerely, some people should just bootstrap. right?
Mm.
Because I know that, external funding has been so romanticized and it looks like,
Yeah.
people celebrate it and all that.
Mm.
So it has its place, but bootstrapping also has its own place. So
Complete.
a lot of times people who are doing small businesses,
Yeah.
you can bootstrap if you have the
Yeah.
resources.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can also just get a loan if you
Alone.
believe so much in the business or you
In
already have
business.
leverage.
Yeah.
Now, the other one, which is the external investment funding, comes
Yeah.
in different forms, right? So
Mm.
there are different scales and degrees of funding.
Yeah.
You just talked about pre-seed. Usually pre-seed investments are like those that come to you when you just have a great idea.
I
So
see.
you're most likely pre-revenue. You're most
Mm.
likely, pre-product
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. Wow.
So most of the time it's like pre-traction, pre-revenue, pre-product,
Mm. Mm.
pre-profit and everything. So a lot of times those pre-seed investments actually come to you when investors believe in you. So they're investing in you
I
primarily.
see.
I'm
I
investing in
see.
Chidima because I know that Chidima is resilient. I know that she can do this.
Mm.
Or from her antecedent, I know that she's done this before, so she actually has
I see.
you know,
Track record.
potential to do something bigger. And we did a pre-seed. We did a pre-seed of I think $1 million US.
Wow.
That was when we just started. Um, so we did that, and we've not had to raise since then. Again,
Wow.
we think we're still going to, we plan to do a much, much, much bigger round in the next couple of months.
Wow.
But we didn't have to raise because we took the money, made judicious use of it, and
Use of
then we
it.
just built, and thankfully we're profitable now. But then on top of that is like, the seed round. With seed round, it's like just a bigger round. Now you
Mm.
probably have a product, you probably have a sense of what you're doing.
Mm.
Um, and now other people can start coming, like angel investors. Usually
Yeah.
angel investors come into the pre-seed as well. They're the
Yeah.
ones who fill the pre-seed, like angels, like high network individuals, friends who have money, who want to put in money here and
Mm.
there. We were lucky. We had four VCs, so institutional checks that came in.
Yeah.
So we had four VC firms that actually invested in our pre-seed. That's not usually very typical. Only very
Wow.
selected VCs do that. In
Wow.
seed round, you have more VCs coming. You have angel investors coming.
Wow.
Who want to put in round, and then the rest, Series A, Series B, you just have to hit certain metrics for you to
Wow.
kind of like hit that. But I think just to round that off, I think the hardest thing for people is where do I get this money from? How do
Yeah.
I even meet these people? Like,
Mm.
beyond knowing what this fund is and what that
Yeah.
fund is.
Yeah.
So one of the things that helped us was we got into an accelerator program.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned this to you
Exercise.
already. Techstars, exactly.
Mm.
So Techstars is pretty much they were one of our first institutional chairs. They're actually our
Mm.
first institutional chair,
Wow.
where they make a call for like people building. And I think during that time we had about 7,000 applications and they pick only 12.
Wow.
And so they pick you and what they do is that you come and then they train you for 3 months. So they moved us to New York. So we lived in New
Wow.
York for 3 months, in some fancy Manhattan office. But I think it's remarkable because it just exposes you to possibility. Yeah. Yeah. So, so with Texas, I think the fascinating thing is that, you are in a cohort of, 11, 10, how many, however, other companies that are trying to solve big problems as well. And all these companies are assembled from around the world. We did in my cohort companies from France. We
Oh,
even had companies
wow.
from Cameroon, from the US, of course, and Canada, and so that convergence actually kind of like pushes you, and then you guys challenge yourself. But very importantly, you guys are also guided by a lot of mentors. So these are people who have built companies before, who have exited companies, who have they've done the journey, and so they can give you a lot of advice. And then you have a huge pool of investors. So
Wow.
you
Is
have
it
that
what you
pool.
would call an incubator or an accelerator?
This is an accelerator. Um,
Accelerator.
this is an accelerator. So an incubator mostly is like something similar, except that with an incubator, most of the time you are also not the incubators usually don't invest. They just
I
bring
see.
you guys into an environment where you can build your company, you can have advisors and all of that. But for accelerators generally are more funded than incubators.
I see.
Why Combinator, for example, is an
Yeah.
accelerator? Text as
Yeah.
an accelerator. Um,
Accelerator.
they have a lot of more funding, and so they want to support you beyond just training you. They want to also support you.
Also support you. I
So we
see.
did that. I think that that was really helpful. That was actually how we started, and then of course you finish the program, and you have to try to ensure that you make good use of the community and the network that you now have. So yeah.
It's really, yeah. I mean, I can't even begin. I say, ah, this person, I know this person. You can't even imagine how proud. Oh my goodness! Like, yeah, I think it blows my mind the way the more that when people like us were thinking of getting a job, this guy was like miles away, thinking of yeah, it's something that I always look at. I'm like, so building a company to multi-million dollar level requires, yeah, it requires more than just a good idea. What
Mm,
were sort of the non-negotiables you built this company on? You mean co-built it with Linta, of course, but in terms of culture, values, and decision making. And what was the most difficult scaling season for you as a founder?
mm, Good questions. I think the first thing is the person you build with is really important, right?
Wow.
I think it's actually the most important. If when I think about it, you have to build with someone who complements you,
Mm,
um, someone whose um, abilities you trust in, um, someone who you're certain will be there when it gets hard, because it will get hard. Most of the time, it's hard. They're going to have a lot of value seasons. You just want to be
wow.
sure that you are in it with someone who truly understands that this is a long game as well.
Wow.
Now, this does not mean that, you guys are not going to have normal, like maybe co-founder issues. You can avoid it really. For one, my co-founder relationship has been great.
Mhm.
When usually, if you're going to have any issues, there will be issues that are just there to push the company forward.
I
And
see.
I think one of the things that breaks most companies is the co-founder ego. When ego comes in, it makes it
Wow.
really, really, difficult to handle. So I would say that's the first and the most important thing. And I think that the other thing is when you start hiring, you have to
Mm,
hire people who are smarter than you. You have to, because the weakest link in your company is the strength of your company, really. So, and I think that that has to do with the leader.
mm,
You have to believe so much in your own abilities to understand that
mm.
I'm not bringing in people I can just boss around. I'm bringing in people that are coming in with unique skills that can do things that I cannot do. All right. I think,
That's a lot of self-awareness though, and also confronting your ego though. Yeah,
oh
because
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's essential because if you're building something big, something that would outlive you, then you have to understand that the the totality of that vision is not resident in you only. There are
mm,
other people that are out there to advance it for you. And you have to be able to bring them in. And bringing them in is not as easy as it seems because there'll be a lot of opportunity cost for those people too. So as you'd imagine, if you're bringing in an engineer who probably would be earning $400,000 at Facebook
wow.
a year, and then you want to pay them half of that, or maybe 150K, you have to be able to convince them that you're building something worthwhile for them to
Yeah.
actually come and join you. So they have to believe in your leadership. They have to believe in your vision.
Wow.
So I think it's essential that you think about that when you're trying to build something really really big, and that's something that we continue to think about to try to bring in the best hands possible. Yeah,
Wow. Oh, wow.
yeah.
So when if someone is watching and they want to go into the like starting their own company, is there any rule that you must have a co-founder? Just in case someone is here saying, "Oh, I don't know if this is for me, maybe I may not be able to cope with is there any rule that to get funding, VC, angel invest, whatever, that you must have a co-founder? Does that confer more assurance on people funding you?
No, no, there's no rule. It's just that you're better off if you did have one.
Amazing.
It's going to be
Okay.
really really hard. You need someone to be on that journey with you. It's going to be lonely. you know like as of now, our Canada office, I'm the only one in the Canada office. Everyone works from home. We have, I think we have two. two of our team members in Canada, but they all work from home. One is in Manitoba, one is in Toronto here, but she works fully from home. She actually just completed a PhD at University of Toronto as well.
Wow.
And then my co-founder is based in the US. We have teams spread across even Nigeria and the Philippines. So it's going to be, it's going to be lonely. It's going to be long. It's going to be hard. So it's always easier that you work with someone. Also, you have to also, it depends on, you also have to think about what you're trying to build. Like for us, we're building like in deep tech. My
Mm,
co-founder isn't deep tech. She's coming from investment banking. I'm coming from research, core research. And so it looked like a really good synergy for us,
mm.
even though like I'd always been interested in business. I'd been even doing business when I was in
Yeah,
grad
yeah,
school.
yeah, yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
just coming in with someone who's thinking about things in a different
A
way
different way.
is very, very powerful. So I think you're better off with it. But now we are beginning to see the emergence of one person companies doing $1 million a year, doing like even 5 million, annual recurring revenues with AI,
Yeah,
where
yeah, yeah,
employ a lot of AI agents to do a
yeah.
lot of the work. So the evolution of work, but you're just better off having someone else do the journey with you.
So what I'm picking up from here is yes, you could do it alone, but when it comes to how it might be more difficult doing it alone, and also like the support, more like having a community, and that's also different perspective. It's a trade-off. What do you want to get out of this journey? More or
Absolutely.
less.
Absolutely.
Hmm, that's
For
interesting.
startups, I think about that journey. That's aphorism where they say that if you want to go fast, walk alone.
Mm.
If you want to go far, walk with someone.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Please let's
I
take it
think,
again. If you want to go fast, like pum 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 agility,
yeah,
then you do
yeah,
it alone. But if you want to endure, stay in the game, last long, and go far,
yeah,
you go with someone.
they go with someone. And it's a long game. So going far seems to be something you want to desire more than going fast, right? So, which is
Wow.
why I think you definitely need a community. And that starts with
Hmm.
your co-founder, really.
All
Yeah.
right. I'm learning even for myself, my family, because I know we're also in the founding
Mhm.
parent.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to pick up like which aspects of these things apply to me. What can I take home from here for my own family
Mhm.
as well? Thank you so much. So you actually read at least 12 books a year, and I know you're a hard copy person. I know
Yeah.
which I am. I'm now
Cooking people.
I've read a lot of books, and from the ones I've read, what I'm trying to do is to build a bookshelf because I want to start
Oh,
my best 30 reads. I want to now buy them hard copy. The ones that I know that
oh,
these are foundational reads for me. These are it. So I want to go now to buy them. Some of them I already
mm.
have. My best. I read it as hard copy and it was my best read. So some of them I
Which is
want to
that?
buy.
Which is that?
Sorry?
Which?
Be Fearless by Jane Egerton.
Oh, oh,
I've read 100 books and I read it this February, from February 1st, and I saw myself. That was the book that I saw every
mm,
aspect of my life in. And
mm.
yeah,
The
I
Fearless. Who,
cried a
who,
lot.
who wrote it? Who
Jane
wrote it?
Egerton Idehen. She's the
Okay.
current MD and CEO of Nicomsat in Nigeria. I reviewed the book and yeah, she actually reposted
Oh,
it.
I think I actually did see. Did you have a conversation with? Did you have a video chat with her?
No, I reviewed the book and then she actually made a video of it. She yeah picked up some clips
Ah,
from it and also made a
that's
video. So
good.
it's my best read. She reports to the current Minister of Communications in Nigeria. She is out just
Excellent.
like you have is it NASA now and she's the CEO
Yeah.
and MD of it. So that's my
Okay.
because
Okay.
I think I went through the same journey in life with her. She went to the same secondary school with me, but I never met her. She was like 17 years ahead. I went to the same
Mm.
university with her. I never met her. She was in the same campus fellowship with me, Castle, but we never met. So it's more
Wow.
like, oh my God, the book, I would recommend this for you. And also, if you
Okay.
can, give it to your spouse. That book
Okay.
shook me. It shook me to my core. I read, and at the point, I'll just take off my glasses and I'll cry and I'll
Oh,
go
wow.
back again. I read it in 2 nights and I finished it.
Oh, wow. So you were that engrossed 2 nights. That's
Yeah.
insane, actually.
I slept the first night I slept by 1 a.m. I did not want to stop, but I had to sleep. And then the other night I had to pause because I had an exam to write. And then I picked it up just twice and I was done. And I know I didn't skip a word. I read every, I can tell you what page anything is in.
What was the most striking thing for you in the book? I know you said when you were reading it, you could see yourself through it.
Yeah. I
But what
think
was the most moving thing for you?
the most striking thing for me was that I love that her husband wrote a chapter in the book. Her
Oh,
husband wrote a chapter in the book. I
interesting.
felt so he was angrier at a world that was not equitable for women. I could feel the anger even more from him than the
Hmm.
woman. Yes, and the book was striking for me also because she detailed her journey and how she grew up in Ajegunle in Lagos. There was one part where she was like, the level of poverty there, coming out from that, being still graceful, giving back to the slums, and hitting the height she is without losing. I mean, you could see that this woman is passionate. Like, I think I'm driven and motivated. But when I saw Jane's book, I'm like, I've not even matched this thing. This one is a power.
Oh wow.
Oh,
Oh
it
wow.
stretched my ambition where in areas of my life where I felt I was settling or I was giving up. I read that book and I'm like, no, Chidema, don't do that. Don't settle. People are counting on you. You owe
Hmm.
the world a book like this. If you stop here, if you settle, you've truncated something. Push for more, strive for more. So that book stretched my ambition. It made me
Hmm.
feel, yes, I should be grateful for things that where I am and all, but there is more, there is more, there is
There's
more, there
more.
is more. And
Hmm.
you are not out of place because like you said when we started this call, there's that fire in you. You are not out
Hmm.
of place. See
Hmm.
this person, there's more. I don't mind sending you my copy to Canada. That book was
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I definitely will find one.
I bought it on Amazon.
I did watch an excerpt of your review on LinkedIn actually.
Oh, the book was
Of the book. Yeah. And
the book
it
was
appears that it
fire.
actually did you greatly. Okay, thanks.
The
Thanks.
book was fire for me. It was I told my husband our daughter has to read this book. I think 10 people so
Mm.
far have bought the book. People in US, people
Oh
in
wow.
UK, they have bought the book, they have read the
Okay.
book, and they've come back to say. So
Okay.
how do
That's
you
excellent.
actually make time for reading with business, family, faith, commitments? How reading hard copy? How do you make time for that?
Well, I love my hard copies. I mean, somehow because I also want to show up, you know. You know, when your friends come to your house, they're like, "Hey, dude, have you read this?" You know,
Yes.
um,
That book looks
but
familiar. What's which book did you just show now? It looks familiar.
it's to beat depression, anxiety. This actually talks about
Wow.
the God-brain axis, how the
Wow.
brain is very connected to how the gods are very connected to the brain and vice versa.
Wow.
It's a two-way street. And that's why, when say you want to go give a talk and suddenly you just want
Yeah.
to use the washroom. Why?
Anxiety.
It's the gut and the brain, right? Uh,
Ooh.
why do we feel butterflies in our stomach when we're in love? Why
Ooh.
do we feel anxious and next thing we want to do, we want to go to the loo? It's the gut
Mm.
and the brain. There's that connection at
Wow.
different levels, at the immune level, at the
Mm.
neurological level. And
Mm.
so a book like this just talks about how there were studies that were actually done where they looked at people that
Wow.
had depression and anxiety and they healed with food, the kind of food that they ate pretty much all
Wow.
the time. So anyways, that's the book. But to your question,
How do you, yeah, make time
you know,
for reading?
reading is just part of my life.
Absolutely. I believe you.
I respect, just by the way, I respect the fact that you're reading an unimaginable, you're covering unimaginable
I'm
volume.
covering the years I
Uh,
did not read.
I don't think I can match you in any way right now. I
No, no,
think
no, no, no.
you are on another level right now, but
Yeah.
I must admit that it's incredibly inspiring.
Mm. Mm.
When because I knew when you had this spark for reading and seeing what you've done with it. I'm not surprised though, because right from when we're in school, you're one of those people they don't tell anything. If you tell you one, you make it 10. Yeah. I still remember vividly. I remember vividly. This was February of 20. I don't want to mention the years. I don't know how old we are, but when we're in final year, I had met you in front of cheaters, and you were asking me about my project, my final year project, and I said, I am still in the middle of it. I'm still trying to figure out. And you're like, does it like that's what I'm saying? I just submitted my project, and this was like 2 months before any other normal human being or student would submit their project. You had submitted 2 months before. I remember vividly. I went to one of our mutual friends, whom you know, and I said, "You know what Chidima tell me today?" He was like, "God," and I told him. The guy put his hand on his head. I said, "Ojobor, are we going to graduate?" And then I obviously gave you a name because of that. So I'm not surprised because you're always on that highway, and I'm glad to see that you have kept that energy. And it's very inspiring. So well done, well done.
Thank you.
It's really fascinating. For me, I just, reading is just part of life.
Mm.
I'm just in a position also where, how can I thrive without reading?
Yeah, yeah,
Leading a family,
yeah.
leading a company,
Mhm.
I'm interacting with people every day. Reading just makes you a better person.
Oh, it's
I
a
like
good
the
one.
person I become
Oh.
when I read.
Ah, that's the word. Oh, that's
You
the
know?
that is the more you read, the more you know you don't even know.
Oh
And then
yeah,
you've seen what it has done in your life. You've seen how it can humble you, how it can confront you, how can lead to self-awareness. And you're like, I like this person I'm growing into, and I
yeah,
want more.
yeah, yeah. I like the person I become, like you said. It confronts you, it reminds you, it sets doctrines for you,
Yeah,
it instructs you, it
yeah.
reproves you.
Proves you
So if you're
exactly.
someone who's always, conscious of evolving and metamorphosing, then you
Wow.
would love reading. So,
You will love
you know,
reading. I
I
think
try
one
to
of
read at least 30 minutes every day. I try to read at
that's
least 30
good.
minutes every day.
Wow, that's good. So is this like in the morning or at night or before you sleep? How is
For
that
sure.
habit for
I
you?
do. So most of the time it's an hour a day, half and
Okay.
half, you know,
Wow.
half in the morning, half at night. But I say
Yeah.
30 minutes just to be on the conservative side. Maybe
Yeah, on the
I work
conservative side.
late into the night and then I can't read.
Mm.
But yeah, I try to read, I would say on average, maybe 45 to an hour. And
That's
it's
really
so
good.
powerful because that's not a long time, but
Atomic
it's so
habit.
powerful, you know?
45 minutes of reading is almost 4 books a month, like or 1 book a month.
Yeah,
It's just atomic
exactly.
habits.
It's
Yeah.
powerful. It's really
Wow.
powerful.
So yeah, I think I've already asked you. So do you read with a problem in mind, or do you let books shape the questions you ask?
I think it's both.
Mm.
Um, I think I was telling you it depends on the phase of my life. Now I'm just asking a lot of key questions that most people don't want to ask, especially people in my field.
Yeah.
I'm just confronting established knowledge. If you're trying to confront
Mm.
things like Darwinism, you have to have a lot of
Mm.
guts. So you have to read a lot of it. So that's one. The things that I find interesting, I want to read about them because I know I'm going to be in circles where I want to talk about them or I want to contribute to the
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
But I also think that um, I have a group of friends. We meet every Saturday. We do, Bible study and things like that. They are also readers. So we talk about
That's good.
stuff. And then I hear maybe someone say something. It's like, oh, I learned that from this. Well, yeah, let's see what's in that book. So sometimes it's just
Yeah.
curiosity. I want to see what's there. And I must admit that there are some books I've read just 20% of them. I read 20%. I get
Yeah.
to a point like, this is not my book. And then I leave
Yeah. And you leave. Yeah. That's
it.
okay. Yeah. It's
So,
not. It's not for me.
yeah, 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 yeah. So, you know. So and I wouldn't be surprised with books like that. It's like you can come back 3 years from now, you're just in another spot in your life.
Absolutely.
And that'll be the appropriate book for
And
you.
that's your book.
Yeah,
That's your
exactly.
book. I agree.
Exactly.
I agree 100%. So, can you recall a book that directly influenced a major business decision you made?
Oh, absolutely. Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl.
I have that book in my long list. I'm going to bump it up because I usually have a long list. And then when someone has mentioned that book like twice, and then I bring it over to my short list.
Man's Search for Meaning. And it's the
Okay.
best book I have ever read. It's the best
Wow.
book I have ever read. And it's not just that the book has influenced me in business, it's influenced me in my personal life.
Wow.
It's just a remarkable book. I think it's a
What does
book.
the what does the book what's the gist? What's the core of the book?
So the core of the book, so apparently Viktor Frankl was one of the survivors of the the Nazi incarceration back in the day.
Oh, wow. Did you know that?
So he was one of the people who actually stayed in one of the concentration camps.
Wow.
And he was a doctor, and so they put his skill to good use in the concentration camp. But at the same
Mm,
time, that allowed him to interface with a lot of people who were dealing with tons of troubles.
wow.
And it was in that experience that the book came out. They
Wow.
were pretty much contemplations of that experience, and
Hmm.
where he started to really understand, what meaning meant and what purpose meant. So,
Wow.
as a title, Man's Search for Meaning, apparently, the way he summarized it was you can find meaning primarily in three key things: in
Hmm.
love, in work, and in suffering. The third part is what influences my business the most. You would think it's work, but work, that's fine. But it's the third part, it's suffering. You can
Suffering.
find a lot of meaning in suffering. And in business, you suffer. You suffer a lot because you'll be
Wow.
met with a lot of uncertainties. You'll be met with a lot
Wow.
of hard times, difficult moments,
Oh
difficult
my God.
decisions. But you need to persevere. And that book, establishes a very core, strong, solid principle for perseverance. And
Wow.
that's why it's the most important book that in my entire life. I apply it to my personal life, to my marriage, to my
Wow.
business, to my friendships,
I'm going to read it.
because it's a really, really powerful book.
I have 8 books I want to read already in March, but I'm going to bump this up. I'll yeah, it's in my long list, but because I hadn't heard anyone talk about it, I always have this principle of because there are lots of books there. I need to. I think if I hear someone talk about it, then I announce, okay, I'll bring it over.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
I'm glad you
Wow.
love it.
Wow. I like
Mhm.
what you said about finding purpose in work, in love, and in suffering. Because I
Yes.
always tell people something that your pain is actually your ministry. Sometimes God
Mm,
lets you to pass through something because
mm,
if you did not pass through that thing, you would not be in an empathetic position to give people like encourage people or count. You would think, oh, people are poor because they are not working hard. You
that's
would
right.
think people are not having children because, oh, was. But if you pass through those situations, a lot of empathy wells up, a lot of it humbles you. And
That's
from your
right.
pain, you're able to minister to people, to give people encouragement. So sometimes
That's
I
right.
feel that one of the reasons why we pass through things is because that's where our ministry is born
Mm,
from because
mm,
you
that's
can't
actually
relate
really
to
powerful.
people. Yeah, so
That's actually
that
really
pain that
powerful.
people are trying to hide, I always say that's your ministry. Stop hiding it. Your sky is your ministry.
Mm,
So once you just said you can find purpose from suffering, I'm like, I need to read that book.
that's it.
I need to
It's
read that book.
powerful.
Have you
It's
ever read a
powerful.
book that forced you to unlearn something that you strongly believe?
Yes, it's a very small book. Well, I'm trying to see if I can actually find it here. It's a
Wow.
very
Small books
small
are
book.
powerful. I
Oh
think
God, small books are.
I think Jane Egerton's book is almost just 100 pages or so. It was just a bullet. Poof, 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 just
Oh
shoot
yeah,
it.
oh yeah, yeah. It's a very. I agree with you. I think it's downstairs. I'm trying to remember the guy who wrote it. I think it's about negotiation. I think it's the power of negotiation. It's a small
Oh,
book,
okay.
very
Write
small
that
book.
down.
I'll find the guy who wrote it. And
Yeah.
you know, when you grow up, when you grow up in Nigeria like we did,
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
is always you're not really you don't grow up with really challenging
Mm.
um, contracts or negotiation, especially
Yeah.
when the power structure
When
in that
the balance, the dynamics
when
is not.
then when the dynamic is not skewed towards your own side,
Yeah. Yeah.
you just want to take things the way they come.
Yeah.
Um,
Just take whatever crumbs you get and go.
but that book completely changed my mindset about
Okay.
how to do
Wow.
that. I think it's a really powerful book. So it teaches you how to negotiate, how to
Negotiate.
recognize the power structure, and how
Wow.
to, while recognizing it, how to structure your argument and your premise in a way that you
Wow.
can actually have the better side of the deal. And at the end of the day, how do you know a negotiation that was done properly? When both of you leave feeling like, oh, I think I should have gotten more from that.
When
You know?
this is how you know the one that was not done properly.
That's how you know the one that was done properly. It's that when
Mm,
you leave that negotiation table, well, he talks about it in two ways. One, when you leave the
mm,
negotiation table feeling like, oh, I think I hit a jackpot, you know? So say for example, you're trying to get a co-founder and then
mm.
someone agrees and you're like, oh my world, how did this guy agree to come work with this dumb me? Like, how did I then maybe you negotiated properly, all right? But also it could just be because the other person is just dumb too. Like they just have they just had high expectations of you and they're like, okay, maybe they just didn't know how to negotiate, right? But it says that when you leave that negotiation table feeling like, oh, I think this was a good negotiation, but maybe if I had pushed a little bit more, I would have gotten more. So that's
Mm,
usually the sweet spot of it. That's usually the
mm.
sweet because in that moment you want to also immerse yourself a little bit more in that thing because you want to see what comes out. So I think that's
I
one of the
see.
good
So it's
books.
trying to tell you that it's not always a that you mustn't always leave feeling a winner.
No, you mustn't always win. You mustn't always leave feeling like you won.
I
You should
agree.
always you should always be feeling like it's just like when we're in secondary school, primary school, you know, you we were very competitive. So regarding university, you do a course, you get an A, but then in that
Mm,
moment you feel like maybe I should have gotten a 90. You got an 85. Like maybe I should have gotten a 90. Why? Because Dozie had a 90, you know?
ah,
So in that moment, you knew you actually had a good deal. But then you feel like maybe if I said this, I would have gotten it for better.
gotten it better.
We've probably experienced it in different ways. Maybe
Yeah,
the
yeah,
house you
yeah.
bought, the car you bought,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah,
That's
you say, oh, maybe I should have priced it, but yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So it was
Hmm.
a really good book. It's a short, small, 130 pages book.
I've already written it down. Man search for meaning, power of negotiation. Okay,
Mm.
let's just wrap this. So when you're facing complex decisions in life, do you reach for books, mentors, prayer, or all three of them?
Hmm, that's a good question. I wouldn't say books are my first.
Hmm.
When I'm
Okay.
facing complex decisions, I wouldn't say books are
Hmm.
my first. Obviously, prayer. I
Hmm.
pray for direction.
Yeah.
I'll say that I try to talk to someone who I believe has been through, because books. If you have a good social relationship with people,
Hmm.
especially people who have gone through the
Hmm.
phases that you've gone through,
Yeah.
or people who have already achieved what you want to achieve,
What you want to
you
achieve.
you would realize that there are many books you would not have to
Absolutely.
write.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you realize that many books
Absolutely.
you don't have to read. And that's why some of the smartest guys are actually not the guys who read the most. They're the guys who just have a very strong social community.
Yeah.
They know the right people. They talk to the right people.
You talk to
They
the
might
right
not know
people.
10 people who are molecular biologists, but they know one
Yeah.
molecular biologist. They know one pilot. They know one real estate
Yeah.
agent. They know one this.
Yeah.
They know one
They
that.
know one that.
So they have a very balanced. So I
Balance.
would talk to people. And that has really
Mm.
helped. Just talking
Mm.
to people. So what do you think about this? You know, talk to people who have exited companies before, people who have done
Yeah.
10 million revenue a year, 20 million revenue a year. I mean, you are doing maybe 2 million now. You want to know how to get to 10. The skill sets are
Mm.
completely different.
Yeah.
Completely different.
Yeah.
So I would say talking to people would be
I
my
agree.
go-to.
I agree. What one of the things I know is that books are good if maybe at a point in your life you are in an overfamiliarity territory or you are
Mm,
being stubborn. That's where I would say books come in. But by default, books are supposed to sustain your education, your growth, anything, but it shouldn't be the first thing. You should actually talk to people. Why I say books are good for overfam, because sometimes I think we grew up reading the Bible. All my life I've read the Bible. But I think I found myself in an overfamiliarity territory, not just with the Bible, but I think it also with some relationship because those people were always available, accessible.
same.
I think I started taking some advice for granted. I felt, and also there was this element of relationship trigger when feedback was being given to me. I felt, oh,
Mm,
because of maybe because person is my spouse or because person is a mentor, but there is this element of relationship trigger over familiarity again. I found that at the point I was resistant to feedback, which was not, I won't say it was entirely me, but there was a relationship element there because of history. So why books for me in that phase of my life within those 3 years, for why books were that go-to for me, let's say if I was grieving or anything, was because there was no trigger there that could get in the way of bias. So that the person, the author, did not know me at all, doesn't even know I exist,
This
doesn't
was
know anything. Yeah. So the person, there's no relationship trigger, no truth, is not attacking any truth about my life. There's no
mm,
identity trigger of me feeling, oh, because you are white and black. No, the person does not even know I exist. So in that season of my life, books were my first go-to, because
listen.
not that they were my first go-to. People had actually said those things before. They had said, oh, you need to work on this behavior, you need to change this. But again, there was that over familiarity, there was a relationship trigger. But then when I now saw books saying the same thing, and then it had to confront me and say, okay, see, this person does not know you. Now you have to get to this point where you need to
Mm,
change this for
yeah,
yourself.
for yourself.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I agree with mentors. But again, what if I know some people have found themselves also in this territory, maybe because of emotions or anything? Something must have happened to those, maybe relationships or anything. I would now say, okay, if you are at that point, you hit that over familiarity territory, you feel you're not taking feedback well because of no fault of yours, but things happen.
Mm,
We are human beings.
mm,
Maybe look at books, because you will now appreciate back those mentors. That's where I would
mm.
bring in books into the
I think
equation.
that's it. I think that's a very, very. I think that's a fantastic point. You're right. Because the writer wasn't writing with you in mind. So
That's
it's a great. It definitely would be a great validation to, probably how you're feeling, or something
Yeah.
to refute the way you feel in that moment.
In
Um,
fact, I've gone ahead because I've seen how it worked for me. I'm at this point now where because I've seen that these books are reinforcing what people have said, I'm now open again back to
yeah.
listening to mentors.
Yes. Yeah.
So when I see people who are complaining to me, okay, my spouse is this or my fiance or whatever, I told them, see, I was here before. It's
Mm,
not this person's fault. They see, maybe you might feel bad, but recommend them to books, because sometimes we always want to hear that thing twice before we know it's actually a problem.
mm,
So in case
mm,
you're saying, but they've not seen someone else saying it. So I would always say give them a book, because if they are open to themselves like I was, because with a book I was just looking at a mirror. There was nothing hindering it. There was no, so if they are open, they would also see what you have been saying. And now there's no bias, there's no trigger. It's not, oh, you're always saying this, you don't see
true.
any good, just the truth staring them in the face. So I always, because it has happened to me, I think I always go back and say, give the person a book, or get someone else to give them a book. Maybe if the book is even coming for you, from you, is still a problem. The person has to seek the book themselves or get it from a neutral person. So
Mm,
yeah,
yes.
I would say mentors, prayers, books, all in the order they come might be different based on the season we are in.
Situation. Exactly. Exactly. Oh, that's actually a really good addition.
Yeah.
I do agree.
Yeah, that was one of the things I had to come up and say, okay, why are books changing me this way? What's happening? Like, people have said the same things before. I've heard this in church. I've read the Bible. And then, having read books, I now go back. I read the Bible differently now. Like, after
Mm,
reading Give and Take and Grant, I understand even Ecclesiastes. When you finish reading five types of wealth and go back to the book of Ecclesiastes, you understand things differently. So it was more of,
okay.
yeah, over familiarity can step in into our growth if something is not changing you. It doesn't, we say read the Bible every day, read the Bible every day, that's good, but sometimes you need to also step out a bit and come back,
Mm,
because over
mm,
familiarity is not good. I think I
mm,
hit that point and it doesn't change anymore. So
mm.
this is
That's
this is just
fantastic.
me being honest here.
That's
So many
fantastic.
people watching this are immigrants, they're believers, they're professionals, students, or aspiring founders. Okay, so if you had to distill your journey into just three core lessons, what would they be?
Mm, great question. One, core lesson, be super, super, super submerged in the problem you're trying to solve. Even if you do not have the solution yet, just try to understand the problem. That's something
Mm,
that I did and I continue to do. You try to
mm,
understand the problem. That really
yeah.
helps.
Mm,
The second thing is it's a long game and it's going to be hard. So you are if you decide to start a business, it's either you are just completely ignorant, you don't know what's
Yeah.
coming up for you, or you're just absolutely, absolutely ambitious.
Hmm.
But whichever it is, it's going to be hard. And it's important
Yeah.
to remember that. I think the last is because it's going to be hard, make it fun for yourself.
Oh, how fun. I
Have
like
fun,
that.
you know,
Thank you
have
so
fun,
much.
you know.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. This conversation has been incredibly rich. Dr. Chidozie Ojobor, thank you so much for your honesty. Thank you for just having this conversation, your wisdom, and the examples you've given. If you want to learn more about your work, I think we can follow you on LinkedIn
Absolutely. Yeah.
and Substack.
LinkedIn. Yeah. Substack. Yes.
God's Health Simplified. Yeah.
That's Health
Yeah.
Simplified on Substack, LinkedIn, Chidozie Ojobor.
Chidozie Ojobor.
I'm on
Thank you
Instagram as well.
so
So yeah.
Instagram too. Thank you. If this conversation resonated with you, don't just watch, please reflect because building well matters just as much as building big. Okay. Thank you so much. And we'll see you in the
Thank you
next
so much.
conversation. Bye. Thank
Thank
you
you
so
for
much,
having me.
Job.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye bye.